אזרחי ישראל,
the citizens of Israel.
התייצבנו כאן היום כדי לשים סוף
We are
למחול
here
השקרים וההפחדות.
today in order to end this whole dance around these subjects. The whole issue of sovereignty of Israel, we've already paid very heavy prices, and there will still be more to price. We all understand that we have no alternative. It is incumbent upon us. We must win. I know that there's a very tough argument going on in the Israeli public about it all. Everyone wants to bring the hostages home. That is the Jewish moral code, the Israeli code. We all understand that their cold-blooded murder must make the Hamas pay a very heavy price for what they did. Yesterday, the Prime Minister spoke gravely about various issues, and others were completely unacceptable and with no base. He will not really defend those hostages, that he will not bring the inhabitants of the North home, and he will not, in fact, attack Iran because they have nuclear weapons. It was not a surprise for me because when I sat in the War Cabinet, he actually thwarted the reaching of an agreement. It does not surprise me because already at the beginning of the war, when I said we should continue wielding pressure on Khan Yunis and Rafah, he did not. Even when we wanted to check the corridor in the Morag southern side without all those issues of the Philadelphi Corridor, he refused. It does not surprise me that Netanyahu refused and is still refusing to bring the inhabitants of the North home with security. It doesn't surprise me whatsoever that Netanyahu is dealing with his political surviving and detrimentally affecting what is his relations with the United States instead of doing what they should be doing with Iran. We have to say it openly now. The hostages have to be brought home now, even if there's a heavy price. We have to ensure that the 7th of October will never be repeated. We have to go back to the Philadelphia Corridor when necessary. We have to now move the campaign to the north. We have to create specific alignments against Iran. Yes, the Philadelphia Corridor is extremely important because they are arming themselves and they are empowering themselves. But we have to really continue walking. Netanyahu knows that there is a program that was accepted by the military forces in order to block off all the tunnels. But Netanyahu is not actually advancing that and has not met with the president of Egypt. He is not giving us a solution for the transit in Rafah. I would like to remind you all that only a few months ago, Netanyahu said that after destroying all the tunnels in Rafah, we will reach absolute victory. It seems that reality is not always just slogans, and the story is not the Philadelphia Corridor, but the lack of the acceptance and the taking of strategic decisions. I said at the beginning of the war, children's who have not even started the 9th grade will be those fighting in the Gaza, and that is a reality. Anyone who thinks that we won't be able to go back to fight and that Sinwar will surrender and give us a long-term arrangement, well, then he's still in the 6th of October, stuck there. I would like to say to you the real truth. Like we went into a maneuver in Gaza, and when we wanted to go and bring the hostages back, and he tried to stop that, and he tried to stop other things. We will go back to Philadelphia Corridor. We will go back when it's necessary. We will act in Khan Yunis, in Zaytun, and wherever is necessary. Netanyahu does not understand that everything has changed since the 7th of October, that we have to eliminate Sinwar, and he isn't strong enough to stand against the pressure, then go home. The time has come to say what yes can be done. You have to bring a deal, whether it's in phases or in one phase. The important thing is that we have to have an outline to bring them back and fulfill that outline and that deal. We have to ensure that we will have to release murderous terrorists. And we have to remember that this eternal country is not worried about an ongoing fight. We have to have an assault from the north with an offensive. We have to act with that threat from Iran. Netanyahu, you have to be very cautious, because when you frighten people and when you use the term existential threat, yes, there are so many people who want to destroy and eradicate us under your government and your leadership. When people want to come and occupy and create a whole belt around us, the IDF can and must be ready. You have to, yes, you have to strengthen the defense infrastructure and have an offensive that is extremely strong, and you have to eradicate every threat on its borders. And with that kind of belt of ammunition and fire, we will have to try also and promote very extensive defense around us all. Let's truly say the truth now. The Philadelphi Corridor is a military threat, but it is not the existential threat against us. Iran's axis of evil is that true threat against us, and it is made up of all the economy here, the preservation of the people's army, the democratic constitutional structure of the State of Israel, and the divisiveness that has been created here. We have to return the trust of the electorate in the people who have been elected and preserve that wonderful people, because grappling with an existential threat, it goes through social resilience and not through extremists whose main interest is their national one and not their political, narrow, real beliefs. You are no longer able to take care of that. Good evening. Yesterday I was watching, in the evening, the Philadelphia speech is the frightening speech. I know it very well, and I know these tremendous changes in the response that the IDF has nowadays than they had 10 years ago and more. And I trust the IDF that they are capable, and I have seen their response short-term and long-term that really does meet the needs, especially after 8 or 9 months, 10 months of fighting. There was a delegitimization yesterday that Netanyahu yesterday spoke about the IDF and the Minister of Defense. He spoke with facts that are erroneous, if we're talking about that, and about the withdrawal from Lebanon as well, and other things that he mentioned. But the main threat that he said for decades was suddenly forgotten. The Iranian threat, the central one that he declared in the Knesset, he said it is a super objective, and he seems to have forgotten it in the last few years. But I'm speaking with a sense of accountability, because I was also in the war cabinet with Benny Gantz for 7 months. And after a whole year nearly of a war, a justified war that was imposed upon us, we are at the lowest point ever in Israel since its inception. And we have not achieved any of the objectives of this war that were specified. From the third month onwards, all the attempts to try and make changes when we were in the war cabinet were actually given absolute negatives, no's. Yesterday, he presented erroneously one of the actual objectives, and the other one was to bring the inhabitants of the North back, and he didn't actually mention that either. So his decision to go without a compass explains some of the reality that we are experiencing over the last months. After the most horrendous failure of bringing those hostages home, that then our heroic soldiers paid such a price to bring them home, but they did not succeed. From the 27th of 8th, he went over every single name, asking whether we would join the outline, and the answer was yes, from all the war cabinet members. For various personal considerations, he decided not to fulfill that. It is not a simple deal. As a result of the failure of the 7th of the month, and so that outline that he ensured that we would all sign, and we all understand the reality that we're in. And he said, yes, that Sinwar's days are numbered. Well, for Bibi, you should make tough decisions so that you will create a better reality for the people of Israel. We saw the coalition members threatening you, and even when they weren't in the room, you could feel their shadow over all the decision-making. And to my chagrin, you did not make those decisions. Bringing the hostages home is a moral decree, but it is also a decision that will enable a better arrangement of our strategic situation that we find ourselves in. Now, it's not working. What is working is strategic planning, serious, in earnest, that you have to think about seriously in advance, striving towards real objectives and make good decisions. Israel's situation will not be decided by the Philadelphi Corridor. Yes, you have to understand that the top priority is bringing the hostages home, because if you do not do that, it is condemning them to death. And we've already seen how many have paid with their lives because of this delay, the ongoing delay. Israel is facing enemies like Iran and its threat, and they are now in a very, very advanced situation with the development of their nuclear program. And one needs to give them a brave response to what they're doing. Israel, even after this very heavy blow, we have seen that the IDF are recovering quickly, and they have reached tactical achievements that, to my chagrin, you have not turned into a strategic success or victory. The victory in this war that will strengthen the future of this country goes through a hostage deal. It is incumbent upon us to strengthen the solidarity and mutual guarantee of the people of Israel for many generations ahead, because if we do not do that, it will be a stigma on Israel's leadership for so many years that they did not succeed in making proper decisions, and they were like a flock of sheep rather than showing true leadership and going ahead. So we must do so to prove our strength for the generations to come. A hostage deal.